a minute, please. Hi, Mayor. This is the order that they want to speak.
Okay.
Okay.
For which one?
They didn't say.
Scared you, didn't I? Welcome to Lancaster City Council special meeting. Now, this is our first special meeting, all of us sitting here.
Yeah.
So if we messed it up,
It's Rex's fault.
City Clerk, roll call.
City Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Molly.
Present.
Mann.
I am present.
Underwood Jacobs. Present. Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Bishop Ernst, would you lead us in prayer?
I would be most honored. Would you bow with me? Our Lord and our Savior, we are so honored and so grateful to you for keeping America strong. We're so thankful specifically for the city of Lancaster, and particularly our leadership, our mayor and council, who cares for everyone who live in this city. We thank you for it. Now we're about to do some things, and we need wisdom, strength, and courage to do what we need to do. Would you bless us, particularly our council and those of us who will be speaking? And we pray this in the precious name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Please join me for pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is that your first time? Well, Toy, thank you for 4th of July. Thank you, Jason, for 4th of July. I thought it was a wonderful event. Went flawless. It actually went off. It was great. City manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
NB1, ordinance authorizing a special all-mail ballot election. We'll now hear the staff report from Mark Bozigian, Jason Caudell.
Mayor Paris, City Council members, it's a pleasure to address you today. One of the things that I personally love about this city is that this council and this city staff and the community doesn't shy away from problems, even if they're unpopular. You've addressed crime in the past, gangs, Mongols, even something as large as climate change. Homelessness is a big problem, and it's a problem for the homeless. It's a problem for the whole community, as you'll hear. But true to this council's forum, you've directed us very specifically to come back with items for your consideration, and before you, you will hear those. The efforts that have been led by the Vice Mayor, I believe, result in an affordable and effective plan. You will certainly hear lots of, as this may be unpopular with some, lots of complaints and ideas from the public, which is fine. There's a place for that. But complaints and ideas aren't plans. This is a plan, and we believe that this will work. You're going to hear from Jason Caudell and Britt Everett on the how. I need to take an aside and acknowledge their efforts. They did an amazing job. The consultant team said that it would take 4 months, and Jason and Britt led us in 4 weeks to this point. So they did a really, really good job. They're going to tell you the how. The why is probably more important, and for that I'd like to ask our Vice Mayor to kick it off and talk about the why.
I think it's very important for everybody to understand how we got here and the reasons and the progress and the non-progress that we got. I made a list of everyone that I've talked to and what we've done to get to this point. So starting on that list, and not necessarily in order that we talked to them, but I have talked to the congressman. I talked to Congressman Steve Knight directly. I've talked to him about changing the process, about doing things, about getting funding differently. We have a problem in the Antelope Valley, the entire Antelope Valley, and we need to be funded differently. So what happened 25 years ago, our faith-based community took care of the problem. So we always have taken care of the problem, and we have never reached out for help. LASA is the organization that we reach out to, and their funding process that they have now is extremely flawed. Downtown LA, Skid Row gets about $4,500 per person. We get $279 per person. So we have different problems, but in order for us to understand what the problems were, we had to go through and actually talk to different people to see what the problems were, and of course it became a funding problem. So I talked to Steve Knight. It goes back, I've been doing this for 3.5 years. I talked to Buck McKeon, I talked to Kevin McCarthy, I've talked to the supervisor in Tonovich's office. I talked to Norm Hickling from their office, I talked to many representatives from their office in many different meetings. It's not just one time with these people, it's over and over and over. We've looked at different things to do. Numerous county officials, the Los Angeles County Homeless Services Authority, which is LASA. We talked to Ronald Williams there. We talked to Nicole Moser. We talked to Gary Mitchell. We talked to Dee Kilburn of the emergency response. We've talked to 4 of their directors, all of these on separate times. So not just one meeting, and again, over and over and over trying to get the funding. A lot of people are here that are going to say, well, maybe we could do this, or maybe we can do this. And the purpose of me telling you what we've been through to this point is I think we've looked under every rug. I think we've looked under every crack to find the money to actually do it. And it's very frustrating to go on and on and on. We've gone to the banks, Wells Fargo Bank, we looked at them to do it. We talked to the mayor of Glendale through Metro to get different funding from him. We talked to the district director from Buck McKeon's office. We talked to Phil Washington from Metro. And we try to get different funding, different grants, because they're out there. They just don't like to fund in the Antelope Valley. I don't know why, but they don't do it. We talked to different capital improvement programs that different funding individuals have. We talked to the Sheriff's Department. We talked to them on exactly if we implement this plan, how will it affect? Can we implement it, and how will the Sheriff's Department be part of this? We talked to the Veteran Services. We talked to Governor Brown's office. We talked to Governor Brown's office and asking them for help. We need help, and we need the money that is allocated, and it's just not coming here. But the problem keeps getting harder and harder and harder to do it. We've talked to Steve Baker, to Jeremy Johnson from Grace Resources. We've talked to many of the ministers, many of the pastors from the different churches to find out, what the problem is. But to go back a little bit, we've talked to Metrolink, Metro and Metrolink, and we found out exactly what the source was, because we're getting the daily inputs, and we're seeing. We talked to Mr. DeRico, and Mr. DeRico says that the train is bringing a lot of these people up there. We investigated it. We had Sheriff's Department, we had our people ride the train, to look at it, to find it. Our count was somewhere between about 67 people a day. Now, I know we're getting a lot of that. If you do 67 a day for 3.5 years, it doesn't add up to how many homeless is there. They don't all stay here, but they were being come up here. They would transfer back. We were doing a lot of things, but we had to stop the inflow of it. So the city of Lancaster, with the mayor's help, we stopped. We warned Metrolink that you cannot do this anymore. Metrolink came in. They did some security stuff for us. They stopped it. I think that they cited over 1,600 people the first month on Metrolink that they were having the homeless come up here. So to show you the difference and how that stopped, we stop them on the Antelope Valley line now. So they're no longer coming up here in the numbers that they were before. So San Fernando Valley has had an increase of over 35%. 35% this year, where our numbers were in the 5 to 7% range. So we're stopping them there, and that's where they were coming up from. But all over, everyone was saying, go up to Lancaster, here's a ticket, go up to Lancaster, ride the Metrolink, there's a homeless shelter, they'll take good care of you up in Lancaster. So all the homeless people were being come up here. I didn't understand it because we have extreme weather here. Our extreme weather comes from, it can be cold enough to kill you outside, it can be hot enough to kill you outside. And we're explaining that to everybody. We're explaining it to the Metro people, to the Metrolink people that, is coming up. So we talked to all kinds, we were trying to systematically fix the problem. We talked to the Boulevard Association, where it is. Can we stop the panhandling? Can we stop the aggressive panhandling? All over Lancaster, all over the Antelope Valley, not just in Lancaster, but all over. And we tried to do it in different directions. So we tried to move the homeless out to the Antelope Valley Fairgrounds. The Fair Board was very gracious in helping us. Mr. Molly was on that board at the time, and they helped us move and we opened up some of the buildings, and we were able to put some of the homeless in there at that time. We got additional funding for that, but we got maybe $100,000 for that time period that they were there. So it wasn't a permanent fix, so we looked for a permanent fix. The permanent fix looked to be at 60th and I. 60th and I was a good place. It was a good facility. It looked to be that we could house about 350 people there. It was an existing building. But the county came back to us and said, for you to have that building, you'll have to renovate it up to $30 to $35 million. I believe it was around 34 million was their exact number, to renovate the 60th and I, the old High Desert Hospital. So it's not that the city of Lancaster hasn't tried. We are sensitive to the different locations. A lot of people out there are saying, we have a lot of old buildings around here. We have a lot of empty buildings. Why don't you use those? We're conscious that we don't want to affect other areas. We don't want to have, if you have an old Vons in your area that you put 400 homeless there, where are they going to go? They're going to go in the surrounding areas. So we understand what happens to that. We don't want to affect different areas in that. We want to make sure that if we build a facility, it's built out where it doesn't really affect the community in a detrimental way. So I want to address some of the problems that or was said in regards to this and how we're taxing our seniors into homelessness. So that was said by the mayor of Palmdale, and I've never taken the time to address it, but they said that we're taxing our seniors into homeless. The city of Lancaster has never came to you for a tax increase. The city to the south of us has a taxable increase on their tax rolls for parks. It has a taxable increase for their landscape district. So you're talking, and in the sanitation district, you have an increase where we have a decrease. Your council people are up here fighting to make sure that everyone pays less. We tried through AVTA to make sure that the seniors don't pay too much and they ride the buses for free. We tried through the sanitation district with Mr. Mann, and he's tried and he's got it reduced. So it's not like we haven't tried. So the purpose of me telling you this is for 3.5 years, the city of Lancaster has been working on this project, and we've been trying to open different doors to different funding opportunities, and we've been very successful in doing that. We've been very successful in doing that in other areas. In transportation, me and Mr. Mann sat on the NCTC, and we got an additional $85 million to fund and to rebuild some of the roads around here. So it's not like we don't know what we're doing. It's not like we haven't tried. It is, we have been left behind. So I want to address just real quick, and then I'll turn it back over to Jason. And we have been left behind by LASA, okay? And it's an organization, it is an organization that is funded by HUD, and that money goes to the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles, and we're just strictly outvoted. And the way that it works is if you have $1 million facility and everyone gets a 10% increase, they get $100,000, and we've been getting $100,000. We get an extra $1,000. So the funding of it is very inadequate. It's very wrong. And every one of those people that I told you before, I've told them we have to fix it. We have to fix the funding problem. We have to fix the actual problem that is there. And they said there's nothing that they can do about it. It's the funding that is there. And I just wanted to give everyone a bit of history on the progress that we've tried to make and where we've gone. So we have tried to open up the doors. This, to me, is a last resort. This, to me, is not something that we could have done this 3.5 years ago, would have saved a lot of time. But, you know, working with everybody, we have tried to open the doors. We have tried to do it on our own. We are unable to do it on our own. So this is where we're at with that. Jason, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and Council. There are a number of steps that need to take place to begin a tax process, and it is a long process. The first, of course, is identifying why. Marvin's just laid that out, why. The next step is identifying what type of tax to approve. There are a number of choices available to the Council: general taxes, assessment districts, creating assessment districts, and special parcel taxes. Each of these taxes have specific rules and requirements, but essentially have the same outcome. The outcome is creating an additional revenue stream to help impact a problem in the community or provide additional services or facilities to assist in that level. That is the specific intent of a tax, is to increase additional revenue to accomplish a special goal. General taxes, as we mentioned before, are required 2/3 vote. Those are typically come in sales taxes, TOT taxes, utility users taxes, things of that nature. That is an opportunity to help fund these services. Assessment districts are as well another opportunity to do that. Those comes with specific requirements. There's specifically a benefit assessment that needs to be identified. That benefit assessment needs to show a benefit to each parcel being taxed with the services that are being provided. And lastly is a parcel taxes, which through staff research as well as a consultation with the Vice Mayor identified this is the appropriate tax to do that. There are a couple reasons for this. First is a 2/3 vote approval. And I think as the message from this council is taxing your citizens is not something we take lightly. It's not something, as Marvin mentioned, that is done often. So the threshold for voter approval is essential. And under this process, it's a 2/3 required vote. And I think that sends a message that if this is important, it should be important to the vast majority of the voters. And in this case, it is.
Jason, just to interrupt you real quick, so everyone understands, if we chose to go to the process, we could have went to a process that just had a 50% plus one vote.
Correct. That is an option to you.
So
yes.
we chose to go to the 66%. So we have the majority of people that would, in the process, would say okay to this.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
In addition, the parcel tax give you a better equitable distribution of those taxes. The opportunity in a parcel district to have a senior discount is available, and as we get to this, we'll identify that there is a senior discount component of this. Under the other assessments, that may not be possible. In a sales tax, you can't just not tax the seniors. In an assessment district, it's a benefit assessment to every parcel, so regardless of whether you're a senior or not, you can receive that benefit. Under a parcel tax, we have the opportunity to give a senior discount. And lastly, it provides a flexibility of uses of funds for not only the funding of debt for the improvements to be built and constructed, but also the operations funds associated with that facility that is constructed. The next process is that we need to go through is identifying the budget. right? To once we've identified what type of tax, why the tax is necessary, identify a budget to accomplish that goal. We've estimated that to accomplish the goals set out by the community and the council, that we need an additional $4 million annual revenue. That $4 million will be available to build the facility, maintain and be good stewards of that facility, so that we assure that for the long term that this facility will be maintained, that the bills will be paid, it'll be painted, it'll be maintained and taken care of, which I think is essential for the public to understand. And lastly, as I think the greatest of the priorities is to assure that we have our neighborhoods and our shopping centers and our libraries remain safe and clean. And I think that's the reality of this, is a large portion of that $4 million is to law enforcement, to make sure that the panhandling issue, the aggressive panhandling, the vagrancy is taken care of. Because as much as there is a compassionate component of what we're doing for the homeless, there's also a reality and enforcement component, is we don't want our friends and family to have to be hassled and hustled at these shopping centers when they go shop. And that is a component of this, and that is a major component of that funding mechanism. Once we've identified the budget, the type of tax, we have to identify the rate and method of the taxes. And there'll be a quick introduction for NHA Advisors, who's a financial advisor who helped on the budget process, as well as MBS, who did the special tax consulting, who actually identified every parcel we have, every type of parcel, and determined how to assess each parcel equitably so that it meets the budget requirements identified. Through that process, the recommended parcel tax was identified as a single-family residential parcel, being a $36 annual assessment. That's $3 a month. It also allows for a senior discount of 50%, so that if you're a senior, you'd apply for a discount, or wouldn't necessarily apply. There is no, you don't have to debate whether you're a senior or not, but you receive the discount by submitting to the city, and that makes it an $18, $50, or 50% discount for $18. A multifamily per unit to the parcel owner of $36. Apartments, each $36. And then for others, which would be commercial and industrial, is $144 per acre, not to exceed $1,000 for each taxpayer. And for undeveloped, it'd be $183 per undeveloped acre of land. With that parcel tax, if approved, would provide the necessary funding of $4 million to build a homeless facility, and that's a continuum of care. That's psychological evaluations, that's mental health, that's feed and clothing, that's shelter, that's job training. There's so much drug addiction counseling services, so many services that can be provided there. And also, as we've mentioned before, the most important part is it provides that level of law enforcement services to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe, our libraries are safe, and our shopping centers are safe. And I think that's, at the end of the day, the most important part that people want to see. With that, I will turn it over to Britt, unless there's any questions, to talk about the details of the election. This is going to be very similar to election that Britt has so eloquently managed in the past, and she'll be here to tell you how that's going to go, or that's going to happen as well. Britt?
Wait. How do you eloquently manage an election?
If you've ever seen her in her office, if you've ever seen her in her offices, you would understand eloquently.
Good evening, Mayor Perez, Vice Mayor Chris, and council members. The city clerk staff is looking forward to conducting this all-mail ballot special election. The ballots will be placed in the mail on September 12th, and as with the general municipal election, voters will have the option of returning their ballots through the mail, or they may return them to City Hall during normal business hours. On Election Day, in addition to City Hall, there will be 2 ballot drop-off centers, one at the National Soccer Center located at 30th Street East near Avenue L, and one at Prime Desert Woodlands located on 35th Street West and Avenue K8. And those locations will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Ballots that are postmarked on or before October 11th and received by the city clerk's office no later than October 14th will be verified and counted appropriately. And I can answer any questions about the election process if you have any.
Great. Thank you, Britt. One correction. Mark is really good at identifying our faults. I mentioned $183 per acre. It's per parcel undeveloped land, so I apologize for that misstatement. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Speaker cards. Chris Johnson. They're in. I messed them up.
Sorry, Chris and I are easily confused. We do look alike. I happen to be
I
his
thought it
brother.
was the shoes myself.
Yeah,
but-
I apologize. I just got out of the hospital and can't put shoes on, so I apologize for my appearance. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, my name is Jeremy Johnson. I'm the Director of Operations at Grace Resources, and it's a pleasure to speak before you again. To speak about this great project that we have before us, an opportunity to really hit upon three things, to hit upon compassion, prevention, and community. And compassion, Jason spoke about it briefly, but there is an element of compassion here. There is a crisis, as Marv, the Vice Mayor, has said, of homelessness here in the Antelope Valley. The most recent count was 3,800 homeless folks here in the Antelope Valley, and I think we all can agree that that number is low. At Grace Resources, we see that every day. We see the folks in the shelter, we see the folks at the resource center, and I can tell you firsthand there is a crisis that exists. And as a community, we can come together and compassionately address that. I am a resident of Lancaster myself and will gladly pay $3 a month to address this issue. Prevention. I think some folks forget that Grace Resources doesn't just house people and feed people. We also provide job training. We provide classes, computer skills. I sat in recently with a group of ladies that were learning how to write resumes, and we're learning how to use keyboards for the first time. And so a center like this would allow us to expand those educational resources. It would allow us to expand the number of people that we provide shelter for. Right now, that shelter maxed out on Yucca houses 110 people. We have been turning away folks, and we are even now looking at, because of the cost of operating the shelter, of having to reduce the number of people that we do provide housing for. We don't want to do that. And this is an opportunity that will not only allow us to provide housing for those 110 people, shelter, but expand that to 300, 400 people, depending on the size of the shelter. Prevention is key to addressing the homeless issue. And we can do that because we will be able to have a 24-hour facility there. Right now, the folks, as you know, are let out of the shelter at 7 o'clock in the morning. And they're roaming the streets. We will have a day center there where we can house people during the day. Law enforcement will have a place to bring people 24 hours a day when they find folks that are in need of help. Community members. And lastly, I want to just, as a community, tell you that this is not just a Grace Resources project. It's not just a faith-based community project. It's a project where we will be partnering with other mental health agencies, other homeless agencies, other agencies here in the Antelope Valley to address this crisis that exists. So it won't be Grace Resources alone. It'll be medical, addiction, job training, all of the things that Jason mentioned. And we look forward to partnering with that. And we invite anybody that has questions about it to contact either Steve Baker or myself at Grace Resources. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. Carlos Navarrete.
Hello, Mayor Paris and City Council. I'm Carlos Navarrete, and I'm here also. I wanted to express my thanks on behalf of Pastor Chappell, who could not be here right now, but he wanted me to make sure he told you how much he appreciates all that you've done so far and what's taking place today. As just a man in ministry and just as a father of 5 and a resident of 30 years here in the Antelope Valley, I just wanted to bring 3 very important points, I believe, that aspects of this project that I think we all should consider. I think the very first one is, to me, is it provides a solution. It's very difficult to try to serve people and not to give them an answer. We can give them a spiritual answer where I come from, but it's very difficult not to give them at times a physical answer unless it comes out of our own pocket or the ministry's pocket, frankly. And so there's a compassionate side to this. I think there's an annoyance factor sometimes, to be honest with you, in living in Lancaster. But then I think that we all need to have an answer factor. We all need to think, how can I be part of the solution? How can I help? There's people with signs. There's people who come and ask for money at every grocery store. And I will be honest with you, it's difficult to give not knowing if that will be triaged. And it's also, to be honest with you, it's difficult to turn them away. And for me, to have a tax for a facility where people will also actually be triaged and helped by people who will take the money that I give as just a citizen, to me it's just a no-brainer and a blessing. I think the second thing this addresses is just the safety factor. And for us as a ministry, I know we have 1,000 or so college students between 18 and their young 20s. And then, of course, that brings their parents from across the country, 35 states, I think it is, at this time. And for us, it's very important. I think Lancaster, it's interesting, honestly, to host some of them as they come and consider this a prospective place to train for ministry. And they say, what are all the people doing walking around? And that's a difficult question. And I want to say the compassion, the solution is number one, but I think number two, we need to remember the safety factor. And I know in our neighborhood, the deputy sheriff that lives next door to me had to literally chase some people away. And then the third thing I want to say is I am not here to represent the minority, but I am one. And I serve about 1,200 members or so who are Hispanic. And I just want to say, people walk into our church and they walk into our community, frankly. And they have some deep needs. We had 9 years ago a family who came in, and to make a long story short, ended up homeless. And I just want to say this affects our Latino community in a very real way, our minorities, if you will, in a very real way. And I just believe as somebody who is one and serves those people, they need to have an opportunity and a place. And I think this is a no-brainer as a citizen. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos. Carlos, in Lancaster, you're not the minority. We are. David Parker.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I think we all want a safe community. We want a good community. As the bishop prayed in our invocation, we want a blessed community. We don't want it to be a dangerous place. I was struck by this quote the other day from Albert Einstein, who said, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing." This echoes something that I believe deeply out of the Bible, that identifies the true kind of nature of our problem as human beings as one of arrogance and also indifference, that looking on and doing nothing. Psalm 10 asks the question, why is there so much suffering? Why is there so much injustice in the world? And it puts its finger firmly again on pride and hardness of heart. What we're really trying to respond to in our community is the fact that we have people who live near to us who we're not superior to them because our economics are better or our lives are more stable or secure. We're not adopting that attitude of somehow they're lesser or deserving less of our interest or kindness. We're actually doing what we should be doing and looking on them as our neighbor, even if their abode is a car or a drainage basin. We look upon them as someone that we actually want to make a difference for, and that's why I'm so grateful for this city. I'm so grateful for your leadership and your willingness to put this to a vote, to say to our community, do 2/3 of us, are we willing to look on to what's going on in our community? Yes, obviously some coming from outside the community, but we have thousands of people who are homeless, and we have the capacity to actually help some of them that numbers in the dozens. Will our community look on that and say, I'm not just content to look on and do nothing, but I'm willing to make the small sacrifice, and I believe it to be a small sacrifice of $3 a month, to say I'm not going to be indifferent to this. I want to actually be part of the solution and part of the answer. And again, I want to applaud this effort and throw all of the support I can behind it, because I think it is so necessary for us to expand what we're able to do, what we're able to receive. 1/3 of our congregation at the Desert Vineyard and the Palmdale Desert Vineyard, 1/3 of our congregation of many thousands of people has hardcore addiction backgrounds, crystal meth, heroin, cocaine. We're talking thousands of people. And really the first step out of that brokenness into something that we would call a good, safe, a blessed life is opportunity, a place to belong, a place to kind of plant a foot and begin to take a step up. that's what we're talking about creating. And I'm so, again, grateful for the efforts that have been made by all of the staff, by our council and our leadership. And just want to say that we can have a safe and a blessed place, but we can't have it, with indifference. We can't have it by looking on and doing nothing. So thank you for this opportunity for our community as a whole to do something, and not just this agency or this group of churches, but our community as a whole has the opportunity to reject indifference. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Waddle.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Waddle, and I'm the Director of Shelter Services with Grace Resources, and also have the incredible privilege of being a part of the Vineyard. And so I want to thank you for opening up this opportunity and letting us share tonight. And I'm going to echo a little bit off of what David Parker has said. As far as indifference just isn't an option for us as a community. Statistics are real, but there are names and there are faces and there are people that are connected to that. And so according to HUD and the point in time count, our homelessness has increased 8% in the Antelope Valley in the past year. Of those who are homeless, we will have about 360 to 400 children under the age of 18 experience homelessness. And they're going to be in parks, they're going to be in cars. Families are going to be hiding them in the desert because they're so afraid that DCFS is going to take their children away from them. We have about 400 to 450 young adults that are 18 to 24 years old that will experience homelessness this year. And many of them are foster kids who are coming out of the system without the life skills to know how to survive. And so they're couch surfing, they're church surfing, they are bridge surfing. They're just trying to survive and have no idea how to do that. Over a third, almost half of our homeless population is suffering from physical and mental health issues. In fact, I would tell you, as I arrived today, our staff was concerned and praying for one of the women that we care very much about. And while I was sitting, I got the text, she died. She died because she didn't have what she needed. She was seriously ill, and we had no safe place for her to be. And now that she has died, her son with mental health issues, who is also dying of AIDS, will now be completely abandoned. We can't be okay with that. We just can't. We have 500 women who will walk through domestic violence and will end up homeless this year in our own community because someone is so drastically abusing them that they were willing to stand up and say, I will not die and I will not let my children die, so I'm going to walk away from this. Apathy isn't an option. It's just not an option. We're a community. We're a community who loves. We're a community who cares. We're a community who needs to be able to trust each other. And so this isn't just about building a building, buying a piece of land, or coming up with a solution so we're not irritating people in a parking lot. It is about a community coming together to save people's lives because they're worth it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bishop Hearns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, my Vice Mayor, Chris, Council, to all of the staff. I've been connected with Lancaster from a political point of view since 1990. And I'm so proud to be a part of the city of Lancaster and to be working alongside of council members and mayor who care. I did everything I could do to reach across Avenue M to get connection on that side and never was able to make that work. But thank God for you all who are saying whether they do or whether they don't, we will. And I'm really appreciating that. When I was sitting on the council, one of the things that we look forward to as council members and with the city manager is if we could have a win-win situation. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 win areas. I don't see any lost ones. Let me kind of enumerate that with you. First of all, there is the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city council who says, we want this to happen. And that is not everywhere in the world, but it is here in Lancaster. And then the other thing that we need to make sure our community knows is that all of the money, every penny of it, stays here in our community. It doesn't go anywhere else. It stays here to take care of the people, the homeless people, and so forth here in our community. It also, one of the benefits to our city council and gives credit to our community, and as was mentioned by the young man here from Lancaster Baptist, we want our streets to be clean and safe. These monies will also work in that area. That's another win area. It helps to clean up our area, and anyone, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm a little bit hard over on this kind of thing, if a person has a place to go and they refuse to, then we ought to have a place to put them in jail or somewhere else where they ain't gonna like too well. So it cleans up our community. Fourth item is it helps us preachers and all of you who care to do what we really feel in our heart to do, and that is to help those who are poor and cannot help themselves. They are doing the very best that they can do. And then the fifth thing that I have, that it provides dollars that we can have police protection on both sides for the community, and also to make sure that these people are picked up off the street. I'd like to leave this kind of thought with you. Some of you don't really know what it means to be homeless. But you can't hardly believe this. I was born 83 years ago now, and on a plantation. My daddy got sent to the military during World War II. And the man, being that I was the oldest child, we couldn't raise much cotton, and they put us out, and at 8 years old, my mama and us were homeless. I know what that feels like. I can remember my mama going to the back door of a white gentleman who ran a restaurant right there in Bahia, Mississippi, and begging him to allow us to stay in one of his shacks on his plantation, and he did that. So homelessness is for real, it hurts, and it changes out. Now, last thing, while I was sitting as mayor, one morning there was about, 10 or 15 homeless people out here in the area just adjacent to the front door. And I happened to come in just as the police was getting ready to take them up and take them away. And I said, no way, don't take them. I said, you all hold on. And I brought all them stinky people up into the mayor's office. It may be still stinking there now but
It does.
I brought them all up there and sit down with them. And they wanted to look around and touch the flag and so on. Later on, I bought hamburgers and sat down with them out there on the railroad track and ate. Now, here's a beautiful part, and I'll close with this. I got a call from over here at the Methodist Church on 10th and J. Mayor Hearns, you need to get over here now. We have a person who really wants to see you. Long story made short, I went over, and here was a guy, and I didn't recognize him, who had been homeless, and we helped him right here in the city of Lancaster. He went back to his place in Oregon, got himself a job, cleaned up his family, and came back to Lancaster just to say, thank you. This is for real, and I hope our community will help us to reach a point with that 2/3 where we can do what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. It's a joy to share with you just for a few minutes. And I just wanted to, first of all, tell you that I have 4 points just because all the other pastors had 3 points, which is so stereotypical. So I'll step outside of that. And the first is I think that this will pass. And the reason I think this will pass is because of the culture of our community. I don't think that this measure is going to sort of create a culture in this community of generosity. I think it already exists. And I think it exists in all of your hearts. You know, the Bible says, like people, like priests. In other words, you really, honestly, you reflect us. We elected you, and you're all generous people. Mr. Mann, I've known you for a long time, about 25 years. And I know of your medical missions. I know of your generosity. I've seen you do things that most people don't get to see, and that reflects our community. Mr. Christ, you have been relentless in your pursuit of finding resources for the homeless. I mean, you just will not give up. You said you've exhausted all your avenues, but you have not been exhausted personally, and I appreciate that. And there's no other motivation but to help people in your heart, and that's become clear. And Mr. Mayor, I again have seen you over the years. You have been incredibly generous. You do that oftentimes behind the scenes, and nobody knows about it. I've been able to see that personally at work. And our 2 newer council members who I've just recently got to know, I've had an opportunity to talk with you about this issue, and your hearts are here. I mean, so it just reflects our community. So I actually think it's going to pass because I think as a community is a generous city, which is why I love living in this city. The other thing I wanted to just address was the collective power that's involved. I think if people consider what $3 a month will do and what will be accomplished by that, I think what they'll see is that this is a much better investment. This is really a better way to give, because when you pull all of these resources together, because you do wonder, as was mentioned earlier by Pastor Navarrete, that you give $3, where's that going to really end up? And is that going to be spent well, or is it going to be able to buy alcohol or whatever it might be? And in this way, honestly, I would say I would vote for this just because I think you'll save money. If you know that there's a place for them to go, then I'm making my contribution, and so collectively it's much more powerful. I wanted to just briefly address the concerns, because I've heard this often, and Mr. Chris, you certainly addressed this as well. There's that thought that's been said oftentimes, if you build it, they will come. Somehow are we going to attract homeless people because of this? And I think I would turn that around. First of all, I'd say if you don't build it, they will die. And we haven't built it, and they haven't gone away. So it's not as if they haven't come without it here. But secondly, I think the city of Lancaster has done an excellent job, and previously serving on the Criminal Justice Commission here at the city, these issues were addressed in helping to deal with the Metrolink issues. And I think that those are issues that had to be dealt with first before we could build something to ensure that we're really helping our local citizens. And I know, Mr. Paris, we've had that conversation many times too, that you desire to help those who are here. And I would agree. I think that that's where we should, the people we should address. And I think that has been dealt with well. The last thing I will just say is that I just think it's common sense. I really do. So this tax is on property owners, which I'm a property owner. I'd be paying this tax. And it's $36 a year. That's not very much money, but I really do believe it will increase property values. And so if you want to just think about it in terms of just a good investment, I think by cleaning up our streets and some of those issues that others have dealt with, by beefing up our law enforcement in this area, that actually will help property owners in the long run. And the other thing I think it really does too is it does provide better public safety, and ultimately it's also common sense because it helps hurting people. So I just thank each of you for considering this, for the efforts that this city council has gone to. And I will tell you, I don't think there's another council like this council. You're a problem-solving council. You mentioned earlier, Mr. Bozigian did, the tough issues that you have tackled and addressed, and I think this is just the next one to address. So thank you all for your commitment to this, and you have the support of this man, and I can tell you have the support of many of the local congregations, business leaders, folks who are really excited about this opportunity. I haven't had a lady from Palmdale stop me and say, can we just give $3 a month toward this? Because we would like to contribute and help solve this problem. So maybe we will take donations from Palmdale residents as well. Thank you all.
I wouldn't worry about the storage problems. George Lane. Good evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. I've been around many years in Lancaster, and it's been our family's home for well over a century. And going back when the city was incorporated in the 1970s and late 1970s, one of the promises made was there would be no new taxes. And the city and the corporation failed the first 2 times. And if that promise hadn't been made, I don't think the city would be incorporated or you folks would be sitting here today. And there's approximately 7,500 parcels, tax defaulted parcels in the Antelope Valley portion of LA County. And that'll be coming out in September, and that's approximately triple what it was last year. And everybody I've heard, I think their heart's really in the right place. But as a business person, financially, this is just one more nail. It makes it difficult to do business in Lancaster. And it's the $3 or $6 or whatever it may be, but it's the accumulation. And one question I have of staff, I was hoping something of this magnitude, there would be some workshops. And I'm coming here very cold, just what I read in the paper today, and I really don't have a feeling for the whole magnitude, what's going to take place. And it seemed like that might be prudent to have workshops and have more included. I'm sure the people that are really up on this understand that, but I talked to several people today after reading the paper. They've had no clue until just recently. But is this tax, is this per parcel, or does this change if you have a business? And that's a question to staff. Is it $3 for every parcel?
What we have proposed today is that for a single-family residence, it's $36 per unit. That's per parcel for a residential property, single-family residential property. There is a senior discount of 50% if you're a senior in a residential property, so that makes it $18. Multifamily residential is $36 per unit. This would be mobile homes, those types of multifamily, condos, those types of things. Apartments are $36 per unit. I think we all know what apartments are. And other parcels, being commercial and industrial, are slated to be charged $144 per acre with a not to exceed amount of $1,000 for other properties. That's commercial.
Maximum of $1,000?
Maximum of $1,000.
No.
And then for vacant, undeveloped properties, it's $183.60 per parcel. And that's the way, that's the parcel tax as proposed.
Yeah, that helps. Hopefully that's built in and that's, permanent and not subject to change right there.
Yes, it would be a permanent in the sense of it would be the length of, I believe it's 20 years for the issuance of the bonds.
Okay, thank you. Besides from the financial end of it, I've had the opportunity to be at the LA mission a few times, and whenever you have a concentration of the homeless, I don't know who had the opportunity. I think it's on Wall Street where it's located, but there's a lot of crime. Businesses have moved out, and when you walk, down the sidewalk, just the smell of marijuana and urine, it's really quite distasteful. And wherever that would be placed, if there would be a center, placed, that's a big, concern, and that's probably going to be a detriment. And if Lancaster wants to continue to draw business in, families, I think we have to be very careful what we wish for. And there's a problem Lancaster has with the homeless, but it's not a universal problem in California. We just came back from San Luis Obispo, last week, and I don't think we saw, there may be some, but I didn't see one homeless person. So really the root of the question, why do we have it in Lancaster? And I know, listening to the Vice Mayor, very knowledgeable and worked on that, but there's some reason we have it in Lancaster, and in other cities do not have that problem. But I would hope that the city may take just a little longer and open it up to some work sessions, so a lot of people understand exactly what's going to happen. But I noticed talking about the sanitation district, that was sold on a few $100s a unit, and it's turned out in some cases up to $25,000 for some businesses. And that's why I was asking the question, and this doesn't sound like anything like that can happen. Is that correct or that?
Yeah, that's correct. It would remain the same for the entire 20 years.
Okay.
And it cannot be changed unless there's an additional vote.
Okay. Well, thank you. And just remember, I think it was 1977, no new taxes. That was the promise from the city. Thank you.
George White. George, why would you have believed those guys? I know those guys. Why would you have believed them? Thanks. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I regret that, we couldn't have an all-nighter on this and discuss this all evening. Mr. Lane thought about some workshops we could have. I wish you would postpone this and have a session where we have boards and graphs and the people, ordinary people like me, citizens of Lancaster, could come and discuss this before we vote on it. Marvin, you talked to a lot of people, but you didn't talk to me. And I'm one of the residents. I'm one of the taxpayers. I think we're going to pay for this, and that's why, like Mr. Lane, I wish we would talk about this. Show us. Ask these people from Los Angeles to come up here from the homeless program. Why can't you give us money? Get a few homeless people from the street. What's going on here? People shouldn't be homeless in this town, and they're not really. Go over to K6. The county has social services over there. It's packed. You can go get services over there. We have Grace Resources. We have the Methodist Church feeding people twice a week. We have Valley Oasis. We're doing pretty good here. And what's Plan B? We're going to build a facility, and we're going to hope we can enhance all these things we already have. And we're not going to see the people. And by the way, they're not these people. They're people. They're people just like us. When they stand before God, they're going to be as equal as we are, even though they have nothing, and they're drug addicts, prostitutes, criminals. We're all equal before God. They're not these people. They're us. So therefore, let's talk about this. Let's get the citizens over here. Let's hash it out. Let's argue. Let's scream. And we'll come up with a good solution. And we'll all feel comfortable about it. And we won't feel like we're going to get ripped off by the government and have to pay more taxes. I really wish you would do that and consider it. And thank you for your time.
Okay, that's all the speaker cards. Any discussion?
I just wanted to make a comment that as being a small businessman, daily basis we have to deal with panhandler, and I'm not talking about personally me, but thousands of other businesses. They affected by this. One panhandler in an entire shopping center chased away all the customers. So this is a really big deal, and this program is going to definitely help. There will be a place they can be at. There will be, so they'll be drawn over there. So right now we don't have anything. So this is really I'm going to give you a personal, like when sometime my restaurants, they come there and then you ask them to leave. So what happened next day? The windows are broken because they are mad because we ask them to leave. But at the same time, I want to help them. I offer them food. I offer them like we feed you guys, but you guys have to leave. So this is a big issue for all the small businesses. It's going to help all the good business to bring more, So I really wanted to just say that. Thank you.
I also have comment. As I heard Jeremy Johnson speak, he spoke of compassion, prevention, and community. A lot of times when a problem exists, people want to create a solution, or they complain about it and don't come up with a solution. And at the same time, I think that we need to get in front of the problem. And looking at what this actual shelter will be able to do is looking at domestic abuse assistance, veterans programs, mental health services, employment training, and substance abuse treatment. It will allow us to get in front of the problem for many of these people and actually allow them to get off of the streets and become a productive member of society. So I have to say that I am very honored and privileged to be a part of such a community that would come together because you care. And as you can see, the council does too. And I thank you for coming and expressing your feelings this evening with us. It touched my heart, so thank you so much for that.
You know, I think I want to take time to speak. You know, 8 years ago, I ran for the city council position, and you know, I'm proud to say there was quite a bit of business that supported my election to this position, whether it was the Board of Trade or the Chamber of Commerce, Board of Realtors, the building industry. And I think it was because of my history that they knew that I would always make the right sound decision. And not just for business, but for the community. Because usually when a community thrives, there follows business. It's not business gets here first. It's usually people arrive here first, and then ultimately, then business follows. And I've had quite a bit of debate with close friends that are business owners, and I'm talking about whether it's small business, members of the Chamber of Commerce that usually represents small business, to very large business owners. And we've got into a debate, and the discussion is choosing and deciding to lead and do the right thing so that the community flourishes, and so does then the business flourish. You know, when you drive off of Avenue K and you see people at the end of the street panhandling, or if you walk into a business today, and it doesn't make a difference what business it is, you know, seniors don't feel comfortable, mothers, fathers don't feel comfortable with their children. And ultimately, you know, I noticed there was a conversation earlier about, you know, no taxes. I didn't think that I would ever sit in this position and say, okay, I got to make a decision here tonight. Although we're not deciding on the taxes, because ultimately you heard the presentation, it would be by the people here, by their vote. And somebody also said, well, why don't we have some workshops? Well, this is not a vote tonight here. It's a vote in October by the people. So that gives people plenty of time to get educated, plenty of time for people to learn, to then ultimately make the right decision. I think we're foolish, and I'm a property owner. I think we're foolish not to do this. So I guess I might be selfish, but from where I look at, whether it's representing the community or it's representing business, I think we would be a fool's game for us not to take this step. Because sometimes choosing not to take any action, it in itself is an action. And then we're thrusted up here to make a decision for the rights of what I think representative of all the people. So I think everybody understands my position. And again, I didn't think I would find myself being in a position, because I've been a pretty good steward of managing money when it comes to this city. And I think this is probably one of the best transactions that we could possibly get into.
Appreciate
Well, I think everyone knows my position. We've been working for 3.5 years to go out throughout the community, decide what the problem is, fix some of the problems that we can fix. I'm with Ken. I don't think that it's a good idea. It's mandatory that we look for the entire community to help us out with this. We want everyone to decide what to do. We've gone in, we've looked at different people, we've had seniors come in, they've talked to us, they've said that, you know, it might be difficult for a senior to do this. We looked at it, we rearranged some of the numbers, we made it work so the seniors would be obligated for only $18 a month. So we gave them a 50% discount. A year, I'm sorry. So, you know, when you're looking at that, when you're looking at $3 a month to actually solve the problem, this solves several problems. And, you know, we're going to be able to move the homeless to an area that doesn't affect other people. We're going to be able to have law enforcement that is a dedicated law enforcement units, not one, not two, several, that will be able to go out and take aggressive panhandlers off the street. They will have a choice. You can go to the shelter or you can go to jail. Okay? This is what we've been working towards. It's a solution, and it's not a serious hardship solution on too many people. It's a compromise. We could have put it, you know, we started at $60. It's now at $36. It was, you know, $5. We went down to $3 a month. I think that it's by working out and working with the community. I know it was said I didn't talk to an individual, but, you know, that individual knows we've been working on this for many, many years. So I thank all of you. I thank all the pastors for representing, you know, the community of Lancaster. Thank you.
Thank you. No. I can't do it. Oh, we have new business item 2 that you can speak on that. It's pretty much the same issue. Okay, so I'm not shutting anybody off. All right? Thank you. George, it is hard to beard the lion in his den, isn't it? I appreciate that. And I understand your position. It's much different when it has a huge impact on certain people, and you're one of those people. And I can understand the concern. And it's hard to come up here and have the appearance of complaining about $36. That is not what you're complaining about or opposing. It's much, much greater for the people who have business interests and who have developed our city. And you certainly have done that. I also am aware of just how generous you have been to the community. And it is, I feel bad that appearance is being pushed or is being handed to you in this, because I know how untrue that is. You know, I was initially opposed. It was David, it was you actually who convinced me that I was wrong, in that I was concerned of it being an attractor. And you showed me how ludicrous that was. And it was ludicrous. I mean, it was silly that I thought that. I'm also conflicted a little bit because, quite frankly, of Palmdale's attitude and Palmdale's leadership attitude. The congressman from Palmdale and has done nothing to help us. And it will be the same people that think we need this in our city who will turn around and vote for him, not realizing how he has acted just like the other leaders of Palmdale, and have washed their hands of this and said it's Lancaster's problem. It's not okay to scoff at us for wanting to deal with a problem of this magnitude. And let's be clear of the magnitude. I have children living in holes. How is that possible in our city? That we have children living in holes in the desert, hiding from children's services so they can stay with their parents. what insanity has overtaken this country that is okay? It's not okay. It's certainly not okay in our city. It will never be okay in our city. I wish that we were able to take this money and use it to develop the city, to attract business into the city. But I also recognize that if we do not get the homeless people out of our libraries, near our schools, and away from our businesses, we will stop developing. It really is that simple. There's another part of me that it is not a secret, what my wife and I have given to the community. But what is a secret is why. Many, many years ago, we were on the edge of bankruptcy. The business was failing. In the kids' school, they went to a private school, needed a science lab, and we were about the only ones that could make it happen. And we borrowed the money for them to have a science lab. And what we've reaped since then, I am convinced that we get 100 times what we give. You know, it is astonishing, the affluence that we accumulated by giving money away. I mean, I really think the Bible is accurate in that regard. At least it has been with us. I have to tell you, I don't feel like we give anything because so much more comes back. And I suspect that that's exactly what's going to happen here with the city. At least my life experience has been, it always does happen. I can't explain it. It flies in the face of all the science and statistics I like to quote. It doesn't seem to make sense, but I can only tell you what's happened to our family. The more we give, it is returned in such a vast amount that it truly is unfathomable to us how it's happened. And so with that, I'm much more comfortable in voting for this. I wish we had a clearer sense of exactly how we're going to prioritize it. I want those children out of the holes. That has to be the first thing we do. I do not want foster kids coming out of foster care into prostitution. And that appears to be what's happening in our city. How is that possible? I hope we prioritize it in that way. But quite frankly, we're going to leave it to the faith-based community in many respects how we do this. And before I shut up, I want to talk about the shelter. A homeless person came up to me the other day who's in the shelter, and he says he has to check in by 4 o'clock or he loses his bed. He goes, how do I get a job if I have to check in by 4 o'clock? So I'd like you guys to fix that, would you? Make it so that they can check in or hold on to their bed after working hours, not in the middle of working hours. It just makes sense to me that that's an issue that should be dealt with. And I promised him that I would talk to you folks about it, so I have. With that, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we introduce ordinance number 1014.
I will second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Thank you. New business 2, and that's for the all-male election.
We have speaker cards.
Yeah, I know. Mark Bozigian, Jason Cottle.
I don't think we have much more to add to our presentation. We can certainly answer any questions that come up.
I don't think that's accurate. This is a new thing we're doing. We are introducing a vote by mail. Oregon, isn't that what this is about?
We can have Britt then talk about the vote by mail.
Okay. Oregon, all of the ballots are done by mail, and they have over an 80% return rate. 80% of the people in Oregon vote. This is something new. I think we should introduce it to the community and see what folks think.
The election will be handled as an all-mail ballot for this election. The idea of having the drop-off centers as opposed to polling locations is so that people will still have the option. 'Cause with an all-mail ballot, you don't have to have precincts, so we wanted to still have an option for our citizens to have a location to take their ballots back if they don't feel comfortable putting them in the mail. So having the ballot centers open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the day of the election allows them that opportunity. The election would still be handled here in City Hall on October 11th. We would count the ballots at the close of polls at 8 p.m., run them through the ballot counters, and have a unofficial result as we do with our general municipal election. And then we would certify, the idea would have the results to be certified at the next City Council meeting, which would be October 25th. Okay.
Thank you. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I wish the election were held concurrently with the presidential election, because my concern is around this time that we're going to have this election, we're going to be getting a deluge of flyers and mail for different candidates for different elections. And I don't know about you, but when I see that stuff in the mailbox, it goes, the next step is to the shredder. So some of the voters are going to get this mixed up with all this political newsletters and so forth and pamphlets, and I'm not sure everybody's going to get it. I vote by mail, and it's great, but I'm just wondering if, and I would feel more comfortable if I knew that people voted in person or by mail together on the presidential election and approved this or disapproved it than I would if they just send in their ballots, because, you know, it'll always be a question. But I can live with it if the people vote in person or by mail in the general election. So I wish you would think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Barletta.
Good evening, Mayor Paris and Vice Mayor Christ and members of the council and staff. First of all, I want to thank you for listening to me at the last meeting on this issue.
You had an impact.
I also want to thank you guys for doing everything you've done to help this city and up at, you know, from the past until now. I mean, you've done some marvelous things, and I'll never quit saying that. But I also remember the day I voted for this city back in November of 1977, I think it was. I voted yes for it. And of course, like Mr. Lane said, they said there'd be no new taxes. But that's not what's really bothering me right now. I want to thank you, first of all, for helping the seniors out on getting a discount on this assessment. And that I do appreciate. However, I happen to own an empty parcel right next door to my place that I bought years ago just as a nest egg for my senior years. And what I'm going to save on my residence, I'm going to give back several times over for that little empty parcel next door that's completely undeveloped. So that's kind of like a bait and switch, the way I see it. I know you didn't do that purposely, but it's the way it's going to affect me. But most of all, I think that this whole thing is a big mistake, and I'm going to tell you why. I've had dealings with the homeless people. I've interviewed 2 or 3 or 4 of them over the years. Back in my younger years, I'm going back to 65, I used to be a store director. Used to catch shoplifters. And when we caught them, we took them in the back room and asked them, you know, why did you do this? And I've asked 2 or 3 of them a couple of times, why don't you guys just clean up and get yourself a job? You know what they said? I was a fool for working. You guys pay taxes. You have people that tell you what to do all day long. He says, you know, he says, me and my buddy here, he says, we don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. It's a way of life with these people, is what I'm trying to get across to you. It's a way of life that they chose. They want to live life like that. They'll sleep outside. They want to look at the stars at night. But when the word gets out that the city of Lancaster is going to make a shelter for these people, you think you've got a lot of people up here now that are homeless? I think you're going to have a whole lot more. I think the word is going to travel. They're going to say, hey, man, let's head up to Lancaster. Those guys are building us a real nice place. This is why I suggested before was just build something that's not too fancy. Just enough shelter to get out of the elements, and that's it. But it sounds like with millions of dollars being mentioned, it's going to be pretty nice. And that kind of word travels fast among the homeless. Boy, they hear it's going to be something nice. They're going to tell their buddies, hey, that's where to go. So I think it's going to be a big mistake when which you're not going to find out until later on. But that's just my feeling. So once again, thank you for listening to what I had to say, but that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. George Beatty? Now, this is a good question, George.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Chris, council members, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't been here for a while, and I support you. I'm willing to go along with the $3 a month thing. As the gentleman just spoke before me, I've spoken to several homeless people. They refuse to go out to 60th and I because there's nothing out there. Okay? It's going to open the door for everybody to stay in here. But you just said also previous that the sheriff department would be a special detachment which will take them out.
I'm not going to take your time, but I want to clarify that, okay? Just because I'm tired of the ACLU and the Justice Department saying bad things about me. They will be given an alternative of not going to jail when they commit a crime, such as panhandling, things of that nature.
Right.
It will not be go to jail or go here. It will be instead of going to jail, you can go here. Mm-hmm. And that's an important distinction to make because I'm tired of the ACLU suing me.
Yes. Okay.
Aren't you happy with that, Allison? I did good, didn't I?
I'm so happy.
But I have, my questions are going to fall along similar things. Is the funding going to have an open door bi-weekly, bi-monthly, posting here at the council, here everywhere, paper, to show where the funds are going to be going? I'll give you an example at the East Side Pool, okay? Contractor come in there and constructed a beautiful stainless steel electric powered seat. It doesn't work. The representative of the person that, the company that made it, couldn't get it working. They used the actual hole that's used for the flag to use it. It does not put the person in the pool. Okay, it doesn't go down far enough, besides not working. They also had a contractor go in and put in new toilet paper holders. It doesn't hold any toilet paper. The toilet paper that comes in is the big roll. It doesn't fit. Why is there such a waste on small amounts, and I see it escalating going into the higher?
Well, as to those two questions, you're going to have an answer in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right? Thank you. Good.
I mean, you know, give me the job. I'll volunteer and do the damn thing for nothing. I don't care. But I mean, I can do a heck of a lot better than what they did.
You at least measure the roll, right?
Something, yeah. I mean, there's already holders for standard toilet paper there.
Good.
That's the only thing it's holding. Somebody got the idea to put it in for the big roll. Well, the big roll don't fit, so it's sitting on top of it. Back to the chair. I mean, I know it's thousands of dollars just to make this thing. I mean, you probably spend $1,000 just for the gentleman that did the welding on it. Okay, they're all stainless steel. One lady first used it a couple of weeks ago. She literally had to jump off of it while she was in the pool to get off of it. It would not go down far enough. Okay, and I'm just concerned on this level Well, how escalated is this going to be? For the contractor that's going to be building the facilities for whatever. Come on, somebody's got to start seeing this stuff and monitoring it. And I want to see a bi-weekly or bi-monthly, whatever, what the contractors are doing. And I want to see where this expense is going. You're wanting to collect all this money, okay, but I don't see or hear who's going to be watching this.
You know, I don't know that that's unreasonable, that we couldn't develop some city participation. And we've got a lot of contractors, we got a lot of people that are really smart people, that if they had some input as to monitoring how things are progressing, and also I don't know that we shouldn't have some input about adjusting it along the way as to are we truly addressing the problem. Come back to me with something. Maybe we do a commission around it, but you'd agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, that's a good point.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You know, Marvin, I left you out of this. You know, Marvin had a choice in doing this. Marvin could have brought this last year when he was not up for re-election. The amount of courage it took for him to bring this up at this particular time is remarkable. I don't know that I could have done it. I am impressed. And same thing for you, Raj. You, nobody even knows you yet. And so, let's not have any illusions about this. We know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to have, well, I hope 10 morons and not just one moron coming up running against no new taxes. And, you know, I told one of them once I could train my dog to hit the button, no taxes. You know, but that's what's going to happen. The amount of courage that these two guys took to do this is huge. They're used to me doing weird stuff. Fran, I saved the best for last.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, council members, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody here that's involved in this thing. When you had a meeting on this a few weeks ago, and you were going to charge everybody $60 a year, and I spoke up and I said that was too much for us to pay for the seniors. And I want to thank you because now it's $18 and I think we can afford that. But I want to share a little personal story of being homeless. I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom, she was a single mom, had 5 daughters. And we were this close to being homeless. In those times, we had LA County, which we call county checks and getting LA County help. They got us an apartment part-time in a old hotel for a while. So they were building some housing. They're called William Mead Projects, northeast of LA. It's in a little part of LA that you probably don't even know exists there, because it's not really in a big metropolis. And my mom couldn't work. She would go downstairs to a little grocery store and get the fruits and vegetables that were half ready to be thrown out. And that's what she'd bring home and take off the bad part and cook and give us the rest, because that's all she could do. But the part I want to get to, when we finally were able to get into this projects, which is basically what you're talking about as far as for housing for the homeless nowadays, I know it sounds like it's awful, but it has also a good point. It depends on how it's run and who takes care of it. When we got into that apartment, it was 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. We had a kitchen, we had a living room, and we had a place to, a yard, not a yard, but there was a place for all the kids, and everybody could play. But anyway, my point going is that I know what it feels like to be out like that, but I also know what it takes to get out of it. If it wasn't for my mom, and I had the responsibility of taking care of all my little sisters. That was my job, and that started when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And to this day, I still take care of my sisters. But that helped me to be able to do, and I'm not rich, I'm barely making it, but gosh, God has been good to me and my sisters. We lost our mother in December, but the thing I want to just share with you, that it is a good thing that you're doing, and I appreciate it. And the people they all see the negative of this. Oh, we're going to bring a lot of negative here. Yes, but you also are saying that we're going to have the negative, but you're willing to counteract that with our sheriffs. So I want to thank you for listening to me, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Fran. Okay, that concludes the public comment. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, before we call for the question, I want to make sure, I have great respect for George Lane and the Lane family and their contribution here to the Antelope Valley as a whole, but I would definitely want to make sure from an education standpoint that we do have some type of formalized workshop. I'm sure the churches would probably be more than happy to help with the education before the vote comes to play in October. But I want to make sure that people make the right decision, and I think that usually when you educate them, usually that's what it leads to, is the right decision. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, well, let's make sure that happens. Also, whatever involvement,
shut it off.
Whatever involvement that you want, George, in regards to how we spend it, if it passes, we're inviting you to take a lead role in that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, to answer your question in regards to that, the ballot measure has an oversight committee built into it. So there is one that's built into it already. It hasn't been decided who, but there is one that will
Okay, good.
See everybody.
Thanks. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution number 16-39, adopt resolution number 1640. We approve the agreement between Martin and Chapman for the consulting services, and we appropriate the money from account 101-4110262.
May I ask that we also include in the motion direction to the city attorney if the ordinance 1014 should pass and we proceed with this election, that the city attorney prepare the impartial analysis pursuant to the government code.
Okay.
Thank you.
I second that.
Well, wait a minute. How much are you going to charge us for that? Never mind. Okay. All right. Let's vote. Is there a second? I got a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's vote. It's unanimous. NB3. Any
No
cards?
speaker cards.
We'll waive the staff report. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion we approve NB3.
I'll second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. City manager, any announcements?
No, sir. We thank the council and the public for the indulgence on the special meeting. Thank you.
Any comments from the council?
Thank you very much for your participation, everybody that came. Really appreciate it.
Anyone else? The city council meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, July 12th, 2016 at 5 p.m. Carol, I'm finished and coming home.